isn't this great? RFK Jr. nominated by President Trump to be the Health and Human Services Secretary. The CDC, the FDA, 100 other organizations will be reporting to him if everything goes smoothly. It's going to be rough. It won't go smooth, but he could get this top job and make America healthy again. That is not just a slogan. Quite frankly, RFK Jr. and his advice, it's made me healthy again. Seriously, me. More on this late-breaking and awesome news in just a little bit. But first, you gotta love Gaetz. I am enjoying the outrage, the furor. Oh my gosh, how could they ever possibly make this attorney the attorney general with 10 years of governmental experience? How could they ever do that? He's totally qualified. Why they hate him? I have some theories. They should be outraged, of course, by, well, the FBI spying on President Trump. That was okay. The FBI launching a home invasion on President Trump and planting evidence. Yeah. The phony indictments, all of it. 75 million Americans just saw right through their corruption. Yet Matt Gaetz is the problem? No, he's not. Although I kind of know how he got so many problems, right? I mean, let's face it. Trouble kind of follows him around because this is the way he does business. When he says what he's about to say here, believe him, because we checked it out and it's true.
The swamp draining will recommence soon, and I will be President Trump's strongest ally in Congress to pass term limits, to stop taxpayer funding for political campaigns, to ban members of Congress for life from becoming lobbyists, and for the same reason you don't let the referee bet on the game, ban members of Congress from trading individual stocks. I am proud to stand before you, the only Republican in Congress who takes no lobbyist money, no PAC money. It's not good for me. I work for you, not them.
Now I understand why he has so many enemies, right? And Republicans, too. Banned for life from lobbying? No stock trading? I mean, why even bother becoming a congressperson? That's what most of them think. You're going to ruin the whole thing, Matt Gaetz. And God bless you for trying. And I think you're going to succeed. Totally qualified, even more qualified than a genuine Democratic Party legend. Let's take a look. Not Joe Biden, but Robert F. Kennedy. Robert F. Kennedy Sr. You know, he was the Attorney General for his brother, John F. Kennedy. Well, let me show you something. Gaetz and RFK next to each other. There's a color photo of RFK. I want to do a little basic math. Remember when we were in like second grade, less than, greater than, right? 8 is greater than 2. 6 is less than 12, right? Keep going, yeah. Let's see here. And then we have this is whatever that means. Gaetz is actually greater than RFK in terms of achievement, in terms of legal work, in terms of record, in every way. Sorry, it's true. RFK, decent guy, I'm sure, but 6 months at the DOJ. He spent 6 months as a lawyer there. Then he left to run his brother's campaign when he was running for Senate, actually. And then 6 years on and off as a Capitol Hill staffer, right? He was just kind of hanging around Washington, D.C. Made a splash every now and then, questioning a witness, but he was just a staffer. And nominated to be the Attorney General at the age of 34. Meanwhile, Matt Gaetz, right out of law school, 3 years in private practice, 6 years in the Florida House of Representatives. He was elected to the Florida House. He wasn't a staffer. And then 8 years in the United States Congress. Gaetz's record is more impressive, more extensive than Robert F. Kennedy's was before he became Attorney General. And that's really important and applicable here, all right? I'll get to that in a moment. But first, they keep telling us that all of the lawyers, the career lawyers at the Department of Justice, are in total freakout mode over Matt Gaetz.
I've gotten two different texts from different people at the Justice Department who just used the word insane to respond and react to this potential appointment, and then also questioning whether Matt Gaetz can be confirmed. And one person asked me to research whether anyone had ever been nominated for the post of Attorney General who had been investigated by the Justice Department. We'll have to look into that, but my initial reading is that I can't think of any time that's ever happened in American history.
Well, wrong again, fake news. It actually has happened plenty, including to Robert F. Kennedy. He was investigated by Hoover. While he was the Attorney General, the FBI director was phone tapping the guy and probably doing it while he was a staffer on Capitol Hill as well. And to your friends who are losing their mind at the Department of Justice building, right? The DOJ building. Remember, this is a big, massive building on Pennsylvania Avenue. And you know what that building actually is named? It's named for, do you see it? Robert F. Kennedy. It is the Robert F. Kennedy Department of Justice building, okay? The guy who worked there for 6 months was a layabout on Capitol Hill. Sorry, but he was in and out of staff jobs until his brother hooked him up with the top job. That's who they named the building for. That is, right? I think we got to cut Matt Gaetz a lot of slack, all right? I think they need to back off. His record is more significant, more substantial than the guy who they named the building for. And also, as Republicans get so, I don't know, iffy and antsy and worried about Matt Gaetz, where were you when this guy was going through his confirmation hearings?
In the aftermath of the attack, the Justice Department began its work on what has become one of the largest, most complex, and most resource-intensive investigations in our history. Only a small number of perpetrators were arrested in the tumult of January 6th itself. Every day since, we have worked to identify, investigate, and apprehend defendants from across the country.
We got to find all the people who were hanging around the hallways after the cops left the doors open for some reason. That's the largest investigation, tracking down these guys and harassing them for the rest of their lives, ruining their lives, huh? That investigation is right up there with 9/11, huh? So Garland, we knew about Garland, right? Everybody looked at his record when he was nominated to the Supreme Court. Yet Republican after Republican voted for the guy. I mean, yeah, all of these people, right? Murkowski, Romney, who's no longer in the Senate, or won't be, but a lot of people. And a lot of them are too weak. This is game time, man. I mean, we got to get this done, don't you think? It's going to be tough, though. That's politics, right? Okay, also this.
Matt Gaetz, Tulsi Gabbard, Pete Hegseth, each bringing little to no traditional experience for their new potential roles, but boatloads of loyalty to Donald Trump.
We know from the first administration, loyalty is the #1 issue for Trump.
This is him prioritizing personal loyalty.
Donald Trump again placing loyalty above all else as he fills out his next administration.
He should. I think he's constitutionally required to find people who are loyal to him. Absolutely. And so far, these people, if you look at them, what they've done, what they've said, how they got the job, yes, I think they will be very loyal to President Trump. And we as voters should expect that, actually should demand that. It's become very fashionable. Yeah, 76 million of us voted for President Trump. So we can't vote for the cabinet, right? It's not set up that way. We liked what he was talking about. We voted for him. It's kind of natural that people be appointed who would execute his vision, not their own. I didn't vote for Tulsi Gabbard. I like her, but it's him. And Tulsi better listen to him and do what he wants, because we didn't vote for her, we voted for him. Does that make sense? And he's got a lot of jobs to fill, and loyalty is paramount.
What did you expect, though, in terms of, like, once you got inside, you had to appoint all these people? Yeah. Like, how many appointments did you have to make?
Well, you have actually 10,000 appointments. Now, they're different. You have big ones, and then they appoint 100 people and 200 people. But the president really is involved with approximately 10,000 appointments.
And again, we can't vote for all those people, right? We voted for one, President Trump. We like his vision. We liked what he was talking about, and we want that executed. And how do you get it executed if you don't have the people who are loyal to you? Now, the last time around, they were not loyal, right? We know that. And the swamp liked that. Look at John Kelly right there, the chief of staff and the Homeland Security Secretary. Every time he was conveying to the media, I'm not with this guy. I am not with him. I'm with the swamp. And he stayed there. Milley, the same thing. Not loyal, yet they got credit for that, right? This is a form of mutiny. Fauci, the notorious Fauci, Elon Musk has said out loud he'd like to see him prosecuted. We may have accountability yet. And there was Mattis, the first defense secretary. All these guys, they saw it as their job to defy President Trump. Well, then they're defying the voters, and I think that's unconstitutional, maybe even criminal. I don't know. This time around, President Trump won't have these people, and that's good. He'll have loyalists. Now, this is something else they say is very dangerous. They're actually getting it totally wrong. It's totally the opposite.
I am most concerned about the fact that there are no guardrails.
There are no guardrails.
There are no guardrails for Donald Trump.
I've said this 1,000 times. There won't be guardrails next time. There won't be Mark Esper. There won't be John Kelly. There won't be Jim Mattis.
Again, I think that you have to realize that this time the guardrails are gone.
Donald Trump in a second term would not have guardrails.
Guardrails, like they're all on the same page, right? Same talking points, guardrails. The guardrails, that's the United States Constitution, all right? And it's written so anybody can understand it, all right? The Constitution is the guardrail, not spies, not saboteurs like you and Fauci and Mattis and Milley and hundreds of others, thousands perhaps. All right, I got to say something else about Pete Hegseth. I'm rooting for him. It's going to be a rough confirmation battle. Everything is kind of in Trump world, right? He exemplifies military leadership traits. Actually, the Marine Corps, we talked about 14 key components of leadership. And I think he exemplifies all, varying degrees, but I want to focus on a couple. First, Lloyd Austin. We're going to compare him to Lloyd Austin, the current Secretary of Defense. Number one, on that list of leadership traits, bearing. You got to conduct yourself as a leader. It actually means something. There's Pete in combat, and there's Lloyd Austin on a trip overseas, right? He was afraid of getting any germs. Let's see. How about decisiveness? That's on the list too. You got to be decisive when you're a leader, all right? You can't just be wishy-washy. And how do you determine that? Well, sometimes it's how you speak, right? Now, look at this presentation from Pete, and then look at the current Secretary of Defense try to say something.
Across this nation, there is a Marxist political movement, call it culturally Marxist, call it progressive, call it what you want, that seeks the destruction of Western civilization and Judeo-Christian values, America being the most obvious representative of that over the last 250 years.
We intend to send forces outside of the airfield to collect up American citizens or Afghans. And of course, we also were in support of the state-led SIV applicant process.
You know, you could say that hesitation is superficial and doesn't mean much. It actually means a lot, all right? When you're a leader, you can't be hemming and hawing like that. When it comes to knowledge, actually in this area, because knowledge is one of the key components of a good leader, I put Pete Hegseth actually in line with Lloyd Austin. This guy's he's become a bit of a scholar when it comes to military affairs. And what about this? Combat. Lloyd Austin's been in combat, Pete Hegseth has been in combat. But that's pretty rare among secretaries of defense. Pete Hegseth in combat. Leon Panetta, was he in combat? No. Back to our little math symbol there. Pete Hegseth versus Ash Carter. Yeah, another one of Obama's defense secretaries. No. And it goes on like this. William Perry. Anybody remember that? He was a professor from MIT. No combat experience. Rumsfeld, was just so eager to get us into conflict, right? Remember him? No combat experience. Gaetz, Robert Gaetz, yeah, bright guy, but never saw combat. Dick Cheney never saw combat or the military, but he's really gung-ho when it comes to the fighting, as long as he and his daughter aren't doing the fighting. I'm saying is this, Pete Hegseth brings a hell of a lot to the table, and we're going to see real leadership if he gets there.
Information. Truth. Is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.